relentless from Sia Kolisi Springboks.
Outside, over the top, Ruckra's ball.
A whole string of penalties now in their territory. Den O'Keefe maybe giving a warning. Iketal looting round beautifully to collect. And into the corner goes Dylan Peach. It's a brilliant score. Oxenchair had made a good challenge over the ball, and Wilson has cut clean through. A second try for the Wallabies. Strong in the tackle fight. And Chair out the back for Libok. And his pass intercepted. Suaralidi getting away, and no one will stop him. The Wallabies have their third and are back within one score. It's game on.
Barney's knock on.
Knock-on advantage here for Australia.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Rugby Scoop podcast. I am not by myself. I'm with Jade Craig. I'm with Vuyozanga. Vickers, how are things over there in Russia? It's the middle of the night. Heavy weekend for a Springbok fan. Tough time for a beer. Tough time for Avanti. How was your weekend, Vickers?
Yeah, pretty easy, bro. Not in Russia anymore.
Hey, all over the place.
10 o'clock at night, so I watched the Springbok game at 11 o'clock. So when I woke up this morning, I was like, should I have stayed up for that? But anyway, yeah, pretty chill, nothing much. Yeah, everything is good.
Nah, fair enough. Jade, too many beers in Bloemfontein over the weekend? I heard the shops, the bottle stores closed quite early after the loss. 6 p.m., 7:30, apparently.
Yeah, but you know, there's always a guy. We always know a guy that knows a guy that can get the drinks for us in Bloemfontein. But it's fine, you know. I think I've got enough alcohol here now. So I'm getting 2 bottles of Avanti from Wheel, so yeah.
Oh yeah, there's 2 coming from Vickers making the bet last week. Vickers said last week, ladies and gentlemen, Springboks by 40, but we'll get to that at the right time. But first, news roundup, ladies and gentlemen. News roundup first, and then after that, we will tackle the Wallabies versus the Springboks at Ellis Park, and then fly over to Argentina with the Allblacks. Put 40 on the Pumas at home. News making headlines this past week. Newcastle Falcons have partnered up with Red Bull. So they will be known as the Newcastle Red Bull, apparently. So the new partnership with Red Bull, the club will now be branded as Newcastle Red Bull going forward. This is a big move for the English club commercially. Things might look good for them. We all know how some of the English Premier teams have actually struggled since COVID on this side of the decade. This will prove our bode well for them going forward. Gary Gold has joined Brave Blossoms. He will be partnering up with Eddie Jones going forward, and he will lead up the defense for the Brave Blossoms, the Japanese rugby team. Jade, what are your thoughts on Gary Gold moving from the US and partnering up with Eddie Jones?
Yes, so we've got Gary Gold as well, and I think Victor Matfield's also involved in that camp there. He's a landmark consultant as well. So I think, you know, there's quite a few South Africans in that camp now. But they've worked together before. I think they've worked together before in the international stage. So I think, you know, Japan, I mean, the jury's still out in terms of Eddie Jones and all the money that's been pumped into the Japanese league and, you know, investment being made there. So, yeah, you know, another top or coach with a huge experience in that camp over there. So let's see how it goes, yeah. But, I mean, he has worked before with Eddie, and, I mean, I see Victor Matfield there as well and other international coaches there as well. So let's see how it goes.
Okay, no, fair enough. I think there was at one point he was also with Jake at the Bulls a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. Or it was just rumors. One of the two. Vickers, the Stormers launched a new logo this past week. A lot of Stormers fans not very happy with the design. I don't know. What do you make of this new age Stormers logo that they've adopted going into the 2025-2026 URC season.
Yeah, look, mate, whenever that happens in sport, you always know that the fans are never going to be happy because that means that they have to get a new jersey. I mean, if you can remember back in the days when the Newlands conversation came up about moving from Newlands to Cape Town Stadium. Funny enough, no one is talking about it now a few years later. So again, this will be one of those that will be talked up now. And then a few years later, do we like even next season actually do we like gone dead and buried?
Yeah, no, that is fair. That is fair. Ticket prices, Jade. A lot of talk before this game between the Springboks and the Wallabies. Ellis Park prices 4.5k, roughly around 400 Australian dollars. I mean, are we bringing the game to the people of South Africa at this rate?
Yeah. I had the shock last year when I went to the Cape Town Stadium, which is obviously, one of the iconic stadiums in South Africa. And I watched the New Zealand and South Africa game over there. And I roughly paid about 3,000 in a ticket. And it was okay seats. So that's what we're looking at paying, 4,500 for top seats. A cheaper seats was about 2,000 Rand, thereabout. So it's difficult because it looks like, that only a certain amount of people can afford it to go and watch the box. I mean, you're looking at taking a family of four, you're looking at easily spending, over close to 10K, over 10K just to watch the box, So I don't think it's fair for the public. I don't think it's a true reflection for the South Africans that support the game every week, and the South African public that's in the crowd every week at Loftus or so watching the Bulls or, at the DHL Stadium watching the Stormers or so. I think, SA Rugby's got to look at that. It's not just a certain group or certain percentage of people that can afford to go and watch the game, but look at the public that's there every week, going to support the Bulls, going to support the Stormers and so. I mean, most of those guys can't afford it to go and watch Test match rugby. It's actually quite unfair on them because they're the true, the die-hard rugby supporters who really been there, every week or so, and now they can't watch the box because they can't afford it.
Yeah, no, fair. Vickers, you wanted to jump in there as well?
No, I was listening to a radio. I just wanted to share something. I was listening to a radio. Apparently, there was one of the cheapest tickets. I think it was like 600 or 550 or 600 Rand or something. And the guy calculated if you take that ticket and then you times it by the number of seats in the stadium, you're looking at plus minus 35 million. So it's crazy numbers. It's crazy. But you know what? When it comes to tickets, I think for me, it's always been that the sport should never obviously go away from the live aspect. So for you to be able to fill up stadiums, you need to be able to make it worthwhile for the people. So for me, that's one of the things that I feel rugby has got it wrong. And now people would rather save money to go to Springbok games instead of going to a Sharks game and Bulls game and Stormers game. So, or the ones that can't afford it, they would rather go to those smaller union games. But at the end of the day, we all want filled up stadiums throughout all our competitions. So, I mean, if you look at Boland, for example, again, another filled up stadium capacity. I know it's a small stadium, but that's what we want to see in rugby in South Africa, especially on TV. Now, it is a little bit worrying when you see in stadiums. I mean, the last time I saw a Cheetah Stadium being filled was probably like years ago. And we haven't seen it. Even the Springboks, when they're playing, there's still seats that are covered. So I feel like it's one of those things that the motherboard will have to obviously look at. But I mean, it's probably too late now because it seems like their model is working. But for me, for as long as they're not putting the people in front, then it will always be one of those unfavorable moments.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Truly understandable. I mean, I think I like the point that you made around the fact that some people might not want to watch a URC game, knowing that the Springboks will probably come and play in front of them around this time of the year. So if there's games that are set for Ellis Park, why do I need to go watch the Lions throughout URC? I can just save up all these months, 6 to 8 months, and then go and watch the Springboks for 7,000 rands. At this point, if you want to go with family, that is. But I mean, at the same time, these are very, very, very expensive tickets. Hence, you could see so many empty seats, and also where the where the stadium is situated has always been one of the fans' outcry in terms of having to travel all the way. Majority of the people that go watch the Springboks in at Ellis Park are usually coming from the north of Johannesburg. They've lost a bit of presence around the south, so a lot of the fans have to travel, take buses, take trains. Luckily, there's a train that always takes people right up until like almost on the main gate of Ellis Park. So at least there's a bit of security in that sense going to watch the Springboks. Jade Kwezimona has been acquired by Exeter Chiefs in England. I mean, we didn't see much of him at the Sharks, knowing that the Sharks have already had all these Springboks coming back into their setup or into their system. So there was no way through for him to kind of make a mark in that Sharks starting lineup at prop. What are your thoughts on Kwezimona having to move? I think is 32, 33 right now. So he can still spend another 2 to 3 years in that setup in England.
I mean, it's a good move for him to move over to England and make some pounds, I mean, in the past, I don't know if I can say it on this platform, and I think Peter also say as well. But I mean, we've had a lot of non-white or players of color, in the previously that were unable to make, these moves overseas because of the agency and because, the doors wasn't, I wouldn't say open because of, reasons for that, but just because of the agents and stuff, not getting them the right move at the time. But well done to his agent for getting him this move to the Exeter Chiefs at this time. I mean, you've got to look at it. I mean, I'm not sure who his agent is. I think he could be with Ronnie Cook. I'm not sure who you better know more. But I mean, Quay's been a real journeyman in the Curry Cup. He played a few seasons for the Griffins and he played for Griquas as well. He went to the Sharks and I think for the Pumas or so. But I mean, for me, that's the standout scoop. You're seeing a guy 32, 33 years old, a prop, making the move to England and going ending off his career on a high. Because I mean, we've had so many stories in the past of, former rugby players, former pros, once they retire, going backwards financially, etc., etc. But I mean, well done to his agent and well done to his management team for getting him this move, at this time. Because I mean, at the Sharks, with all the players they have there and all the signings they made, I think it's a perfect move for him.
Yeah, Vickers, did you get a chance? Was he at Eastern Province at one point or not? He just went to Pumas, Griquas, Sharks, or what was his journey actually, Quiz?
No, I'm not sure, bro, but I know I never coached him. Also, I picked up from him about him in when he was at the Pumas, and then he went to the Sharks, and then he was on loan somewhere, and then he went back to the Sharks. So he has been kind of being thrown around a little bit. So maybe now this is actually a good move for him to go and obviously give his input with the Exeter Chiefs. I think for me, he's going to a good system. He's going to a good culture system. I like the coach there. He's very strict with his players. And I think for me, we could see him actually grow immensely there and maybe even go back to the retirement village. We know where that one is.
All right. That rounds up our news making headlines this week. Oh, not to forget, Louis Rees-Zammit has signed with Bristol Bears as well this past week. Obviously, there was lots of rumors whether he would go back to Gloucester, but Bristol Bears and what's his name again? Is it Pat Lam who's coaching Bristol Bears, where they play running rugby throughout the season over there. I think it'll be well suited in that stable going forward for him. Now, the main topic of today. Rubs hands like Birdman. Manyosha, Biza, who joins us all the way from the Czech Republic, coaching footy over there, coaching rugby, coming from the Eastern Cape in South Africa. Played plenty of rugby, provincial footy at the highest level, and then managed to wiggle his way through the European scenes. Biza, your thoughts on the game yesterday? What stood out for you?
Scoop, firstly, you sound very excited, man.
Don't peak too early. Don't peak too early.
You've had a good weekend. Hey, man, it's difficult one to take yesterday. To go up 22 points and then not score for the rest of the game is very hard to swallow. I think the Springbok fans and everyone else, they don't have an issue with losing games. I think Russell has said in the past that it's impossible to win every test match. But it's just the way we lost that game that it hurts a bit, you know. It really does hurt. But credit to the Australians, you know, for staying in the fight for that long. Joe Schmidts is doing a great job there. And some of his selection was basically spot on, you know. James O'Connor, of course, I know that there weren't too many choices to choose from, but I think James O'Connor is probably the perfect player to sort of, because in that situation where they're down, they seem that they're down and out. You know, he's been down and out for so many times in his career. But it's still character. You are probably the perfect guy to take them out of that hole. You know, a lot of the guys stepped up. I'm worried about the next test now. If the Boks can be able to pick themselves up. Some question marks with the Boks in terms of the game plan. You know, Tony Ball. I do enjoy Tony Ball, but I do feel that it's not mixed enough with the hard grind up front. You know.
Yeah.
I was trying to think today how many times the Boks, for instance, mauled yesterday. I can't seem to remember. I think everything else was just played off the top, and I felt that sort of played in the hands of the Aussies. You know, that they were probably fresher towards the end of the game than the least. They looked fresher towards the end of the game than the Boks.
Yeah.
And then the other point is the bomb squad didn't work yesterday. You know, I don't know whether it's the timing of the changes, because generally he makes changes at the same time, normally Rassi. But yesterday was different. You know, it was like trips and turns. There was two guys coming in, the other guy coming in. Of course, some were forced by injuries. And then I'm sure now when they sit today, or if they've sat down today, there's a question mark of the split. Is the split based on the split on Saturday? The bench split, was it based on the fact that we're going to play Tony Ball? Or I'm not sure. Should we go back to the 6-2 and first try and grind those up front as well? You know, because I thought that would let them off a lot in terms of, we didn't test them in the line-out defense. They'd all play off the top and it suited them. But they were amazing, you know, to stay, to believe that they can come back from that game in that situation is almost impossible. I don't know how to do. You know, it's medical stuff. Yeah. That's my view.
Fair. Jade. Biza talks about Tony Ball. He talks about James O'Connor. Wallabies breaking a 62-year drought at Ellis Park. 62 years of footy. Can you imagine? My goodness. That's a long time. That's a very, very long time. But let's go back to the analysis of this game, looking at Jock, his influence in this game, looking at how the Wallabies managed their way to come back from 22 points down, the way they kicked, the way the Boks kicked in this game as well. We're looking at two different game plans. One, which was blitz attack for first 18 minutes, and then kind of faded and became soft for the next 60 minutes of the game. And then one that got rejuvenated after the first 40. In the second 40, they started like a house on fire. They took off both of their props and they put in new props again in the second half. And Angus Bell came in with the carries, which we didn't see from the Wallabies in the first half. And soft hands, man, from the props as well. Good deft touches as well. And then we saw Nick White with his exits as well, which also helped Australia because Itzabeth was all over him like white on rice. There's so many things to talk about, but take me through what you saw in this game, Jade.
I just want to say, also looking on the group now, welcome to Lucas. He's all the way from Australia who joins in and listens to our pod. Thanks for staying up and listening to this one, Lucas. And if you've seen some coming flower somewhere, please reporting back to reception. He's been missing for the whole weekend already. But anyway, Scoop, I saw yesterday the game, the start of the first 15 minutes. I thought the Boks were absolutely flawless in their attack. I looked at the game like, wow, what are we doing? The Tony Brown ball is like Visa says, the Tony ballers. They're razzling, they're dazzling, they're looking. Eastern's looking soft hands and creoles all over the place. And I thought, wow, this Bok team looks scary. And then they went flat. From the 15th minute to halftime, they went flat and they gave the Wallabies a foothold into the game. Where they were keeping ball in hand, in that first few minutes, keeping ball in hand, quick recycle, playing your phases through, playing quickly through. They started kicking, they started going to the box kicks, started getting Australia a foothold in this game. A few lineups went astray, and Australia slowly came and got back into this game. You're looking at your players like that went flat yesterday that you really wanted to put their hand up. A guy like Manny the Book gets up so much stick. But if you're leading 22 note after 15 minutes, that is when you want to put your authority on and you want to make the right tactical decisions to keep a team going forward and attacking in a certain space. Because another try there in the first 20 minutes or so, we could easily see a 60-70 on the cards for the Boks here, because Australia would never come back. Other things, I have to give credit to Joe Schmidts. I think the attention and the amount of talk and preparation that went into Ellis Park, altitude. With this team played at altitude before, I think about if you look at 30% or so. But the amount of focus that went in from them, on finishing strong in this game. And you saw the Wallabies knew to win this game, they need to be stronger in the last 20 minutes. And that's what they did. Unfortunately for the Boks, they allowed the Wallabies back into the game. But the Wallabies stuck in there and they got stronger and stronger and stronger into the game. So that was the mindset that you're looking for a guy like Schmidts. Like, okay, the last 20 minutes or so, we in this game, that's what we're going to finish strong. Doesn't matter what the score is, we're going to have to finish strong. We have to test our character there. So I think the whole big preparation that went into that last 20 minutes. And Scoop, I think they scored 3 tries in the last 20 minutes. It just proves what team is there outscores the Bok at altitude, in the at Ellis Park. And I think they scored 3 tries to note in the last 20 minutes. Just shows that the amount of attention to detail that went in that last 20 minutes or so. That you've got to look at. Schmidt in terms of his selection, in terms of his bench selection. We know one of the most important players for Australia is Angus Bell. He's arguably their best prop. What happened yesterday? They played him from the bench. They brought him on at the right time, and he came on. He was absolutely world class at prop. When last we say an Australian prop, through a world class performance like I just said, he tackled, he carried, he stood up at scrum time, soft hands, in contact, post contact meters. He actually was one of the guys, that took their bench forward. Then you're looking at someone that we spoke about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We asked him, is he the right choice, to be captain? Harry Wilson. He had a blinder yesterday. He had an absolute blinder attack yesterday. They didn't miss Bobby Valentini yesterday. You're looking at what the locks did. You're looking at where the guys stood up. But the back trio, when last you see a game with all 3 backs, both wingers and the fullback score a try, in a game? It just shows the influence that Tom Wright Jorgensen and Dylan Peach had on this game. Yes, there is still a few flaws over there. James O'Connor was good. He could have done better things. A few times in the start, struggled. Australia also struggled under the high ball at times. That was when they were under the pump in the first 30 minutes or so. But the way they came back, and especially looking at that backline, especially the way they played, they knew what channels to attack the Bok. They knew where was the soft shoulders to get the half breaks, and the support play was brilliant. The pace, the injection that Tate McDermott brought in from the bench, together with the likes of Angus Bell, like I mentioned, Zane Nongo, all of those guys that came on over there. That was absolutely brilliant for them. And like I say, the game management and the preparation to this Ellis Park game, regardless of the Boks tapered up or not, but to score 3 tries in the last 20 minutes at Ellis Park, come on guys, we have to give them the credit for that. Well done to them, man. Well, I didn't expect this result. Will they win next week? We don't know. But for this week, they can really, they can be proud of their achievement this week. 60 odd years since they won it at Ellis Park.
No, fair. But before we jump into all these other aspects, Vickers, 22-0 18th minute, 33 unanswered points in the second half. It's 33-0. 33-0 against the Springboks at home in the second half. There is no way. I know Joe Schmidts in his post-match interview, he says, we got a bit lucky in certain areas, but you force your luck, right, into a match. You force your opponents to make mistakes. And the Boks were playing away from their DNA on Saturday. They were playing away from their DNA on Saturday. They ran their lungs out of that game. You could see them huffing and puffing in certain moments, because if you look at some of those tries, those are like almost 40 to 50 meter tries that were being scored by the Wallabies. Imagine chasing backwards and then having to hit ruck after ruck after ruck, and then making to make tackle after tackle after tackle at altitude in the 60th minute. Take me through your views, Vickers. What do you think of this game, and how the Springboks, where to now?
Yes. Well, look, I hear what Jade is talking about. You guys are giving Australia too much credit. I think this for me,
What?
this performance was not on Australia. This performance, look, if we take away the 2 intercept tries, the missed tackles on Tom Wright, that's 3 tries already. That's gone. And then for me, these are the things that I'm talking about when I was talking about when in the group. So let me take you through the first thing. The Boks, since we've played Italy the first game, the Boks have a lapse of dead time, if I can call it like that. There's a dead time in every game that they've played that they seem to be nowhere. And we saw this against Italy first game. We didn't see much in the second game. We saw it against Georgia. So for me, it's almost like that's what Joe Schmidts hammered to the players in terms of, guys, there is going to be that dead time. And that dead time is the one that we need to be up. And I think they got the sniff when they scored that try just before halftime. They got that sniff that, okay, maybe it's now. Let's see if we can start the second half on fire. And the way that they started the second half, Scoop, is exactly the way that they would have gone into the changing room thinking that maybe this is the daytime. The disappointing thing for me is the obviously like you guys are talking about the Tony Ball. There's time for Tony Ball, and then there's time to go back to basics. I always talk about respecting rugby and going back to basics and trying to keep things simple, trying to grind out the spaces. When you start throwing balls like they were doing, the Springboks, like they were doing, they were under pressure, but they were throwing funny passes, throwing funny offloads. Now, to me, that says that they don't respect test match rugby, especially because of the way they started the game. And I feel that's where the biggest problem also lied in yesterday's game, is the fact that because it was so easy, that first 17 minutes, they almost gotten back to that mode that it's another barbarians game. And I feel that's exactly what obviously we've been picking up on. Then we look at like Bees talking about the lineouts. You didn't see a more lesson. We struggled for our lineouts. That's the first thing. Normally we don't struggle for our lineouts. Yes, it maybe boils down to selection in terms of which locks were being picked. Louis Diaga instead of Nokia. So for me, when the Boks struggle in terms of that, the set piece, we didn't get a lot of purchase yesterday from the scrum aspect. We were struggling in the lineouts. Now, because we don't get the purchase on the set pieces, it almost puts us in a situation where we have to play more rugby. Whereas we normally don't play more rugby. We usually get penalties, and we kick for touch, we kick for touch, then we play, then we score. But now we were forced to play more rugby because of the lack of continuity within the penalty count. And then in the second half, we started seeing the reverse of that. Now we started being under pressure, and Australia put us under pressure, and they got penalty after penalty after penalty. I mean, at some stage, I think they were like 8 penalties to versus 1. Box had about 4 or 5 consecutive penalties, and then they had Australia 1, and then Box had another 4 or 5. So for me, it's one of those things where you have to control in the game. And then my last point, based on what I've just said, with the leadership the Springboks have on the field, my worry is that we lost that game because of the leadership. Because after the first skip pass, because I think the first skip pass was to take the score to 17 points, if I'm not mistaken. Now, if or maybe to 24, but when you start seeing those kind of things happen in a game, the leadership on the field is supposed to say, guys, listen, let's bring it back a little bit. Let's start grinding the work. Let's start doing the basics. Let's start going back to our setup, our pods, and let's run until we can feel more confident again back in the game. Because the last time we scored was 17 minutes ago, 17 minutes in the first half. So let's grind. Let's stick to the basics. Let's push until we feel we're actually back in the groove. It's almost like you're forcing you're forcing your structure onto the defense. So I feel that's what they didn't do. If you remember, we were losing when they did that jumping line out in the middle of the field and then throwing it to the scrum up. We were losing. Those are not things you do when you're losing. Those are things that you do when you're having fun in the game. You're not having fun at that point. So all of those small things that were happening in that game, I felt the leadership lacked in that second, especially after Sia left the field. The leadership lacked. And again, who was the captain? Because when Sia left, Eben seemed to be talking more.
Yeah.
But then you had Jesse Creel, who was starting captain with Eben in the team a few weeks ago.
Mm.
So that's for me. It's a small things that I looked at and I said to myself, but this problem, this one, and it's not a big issue. It's just they needed to tighten up a few things. I can tell you now. Probably next weekend, we won't be surprised if we see a 7-1 split, but chances not. But because obviously the coaching staff must be flipping angry. They're probably very angry because they understand that this game was theirs and they the ones who lost it. Australia didn't beat them. 2 intercept tries, an offload, pick up and go, run full 80 meters. That for me, that's not being beaten. That's you losing a game. Hence, I'm saying we're giving Australia too much credit for this win. The only thing I will say is that they knew that the Boks had that lapse of concentration in that certain block. There's a block where the Boks have a lapse of concentration, and that's when they pounced.
I don't know, Vickers. I don't know, man. I don't know. Every team, obviously, you're a coach. Both you and Biza, luckily, are coaches. Yes, every team has a bit of a lull during the 80 minutes. There's no team on earth that will outperform you for 80 minutes flat. It's highly impossible. And if I look at the Springboks against the Barbarians, the last 20 to 30 minutes, they only scored 21 points and they conceded a try. Against Italy in the first test, it was 14-14 in those last 20 to 40 minutes. That's the lull period of Italy now coming back. And then in that second test, they only scored 19 points against Italy as well during that lull period. Against Georgia, it was 22 points. Like, they will go blitz those first 40 or the first 20 to 30. And then after that, the second half is where teams can get purchase or gain purchase against the Boks. I mean, against the Wallabies, they lost by 26 points in the last 30 alone, you know. So there's also elements of that. I'm going back to what you were saying as well. Yes, there is glaring mistakes or maybe a lull period that the Springboks do go to. And then when we touch on lineouts, I mean, they lost 7 lineouts. There's no launch pad. There's no launch on attack if you're losing 7 lineouts. Your own ball, that is. Because from your own ball, you're launching a specific attack. You've got your structures in place because they're probably going to hit up in the middle and then go to the far right or far left, whichever way the lineout is situated. 0 mauls from attack because the mauls were nullified. If you look at the British and Irish Lions against Australia as well, they couldn't maul either. So let's not say we're giving too much credit. Let's say that the Wallabies do have some purchase or did have a game plan for the Springboks. Because at the end of the day, if you make mistakes, those mistakes are forced by your opponents as well. Because, I mean, Mani throwing a bridge pass, a bridge pass in the middle of the field. That's not Australia's problem. That's a money
Scoop,
problem.
Come on. But Scoop, what I'm saying is that obviously I'm not saying the only thing I'm talking about is the credit part. I'm not saying no team will ever go without a plan. Yes, that's why I said they did very well by stopping them in the lineup. And actually, they did very well in the scrums as well because, like I said, Springboks didn't get enough purchase. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, if I am passing the ball to the opponent and he runs 60 meters to go score, that's no credit to him. There was no pressure. That was a forward pass straight into the Australia hands. It was a forward pass. You can't credit that. How do you credit that? How do you credit an offload bouncing on the head, being picked up and running 80 meters? How do you credit that?
So the box lacked accuracy.
Yeah, 100%. And they did, and like I said, they did lack accuracy. And when they lacked accuracy, Australia pounced. And I can understand. Yes, you talk about creating your own luck. You talk about once you're putting enough pressure for the opposition to make the mistakes. But some of the mistakes that we're talking about. For example, the first try that Australia scored, Ikitau caught the ball after it was popped backwards. There was no one on him, no pressure, nothing. When have you seen a player jump up like he's playing a sevens rugby against the Springbok, and he has enough time to think what's next? And then for James O'Connor to think, okay, let me hit a short run and pop it to him on the outside.
Yeah.
That's it for me. That's what I'm saying. The lack of concentration. There are things that happen on that field that just didn't make sense from a Springbok perspective.
Okay, fair point, Vickers, fair point. But then now, Jade, wouldn't the lack of concentration come down to a Springbok team that's not fit enough or struggling at altitude? Because then those mistakes starts happening in those situations when you're tired.
I don't know if can we really say not fit enough? I mean, match fit, yeah. Maybe you can state that, Rusty he had 4 games in his lead up to this and mixed and match, and in terms of intensity, it wasn't anywhere near this, although I did feel that, so I have to control the intensity of the first 20 minutes or so. But were you making valid points here as well? For me, it's also the concentration and the communication they had on defense. I think, there was one of the biggest downfalls and something we need to look at. Because we're looking at, the try, the first try Australia scored, like we all said, Australia was going nowhere until that, that break of Ikitau. They were going nowhere. The box looked like they had it. And then all of a sudden, short ball, they're playing and they scored it. I mean, the try also that Harry Wilson scored, the first one, the short ball, that they ran. Yes, he ran an awesome line, but the box wasn't in sync on defense. Something that we haven't seen from the box in years. They've always been aggressive on defense. I mean, in the first 15 minutes or so, I looked at Joseph Swahili, taking up a ball at 13, and it was Jesse Kriel yesterday who folded him in midfield. And I thought to myself, whoa, this guy's in for a long day here. But it's true what Will says, in terms of, I can't say that they're not fit, because, I mean, it's hard to believe that a rugby team is not fit. Maybe in terms of being in certain situations this year together as a group, I don't think they've been in that situation, where they've been really under pressure or so. Maybe they've been a little bit too comfortable, in certain aspects in playing. And I mean, looking at starting the game as well, they were again in that comfort zone. So I think for them, to get out of that comfort zone, we've seen it against Italy a few in the second or in the first test, where in the second half they were completely flat. So maybe the Russian needs to look at, okay, My guys hit their straps, they take a 20-bet lead, and then they get into a comfort zone. And they're really struggling to get out of their comfort zone. So that's when you got to look at your leadership group as well, starting getting small markers or small, you're getting at small victories in the game. So for the next 10 minutes or so, guys, let's go and play in the half. Let's put pressure defensively. Let's make sure they can't exit, Let's just give them the ball. Let's work on defense. Let's make sure they can't exit. Let's look at certain aspects. Let's carry narrow, for the next 10 minutes. So let's bring it together. So maybe in that aspect, they could have been there. And also, you got to say it's bad leadership because, the same leaders that was on the field yesterday when Sia went off, the leaders that was there when the Boks won the World Cup. So, I don't know. For me, I would say, at the moment, the Boks, I think when they're in the comfort zone and they're comfortable, I think, coming back down and getting that intensity again, once their backs against the wall, I think that's the problem Racing needs to address. And they really need to look at it, they were used to that, where they had the bomb squad that came on and made a massive difference. But yesterday we saw that they came on in drips and drabs, came on 2 year, then was another one because of injuries. So I think that's also, maybe Racing needs to look at his bench, get his bench perfect. And if they do go flat or they're all comfortable or so, even if they're leading 30 or 40 points, make sure, that you win every quarter of the game to ensure your dominance. I think that's something that you look at now.
Yeah,
Fair.
and also just one more thing that's good on what Jade just reminded me about is that, like, in terms of the disconnect within the players, when Tom Wright made that line break, when I think Cannon Moody missed the tackle, if I'm not mistaken. Cannon Moody missed the tackle. He handed off Jesse Creel. Now Jesse's chasing him from behind.
Yes.
There were 3 players in front of Tom Wright. There were 3 Springbok players: Willemse, Manny Lebok, and I think there was another player.
It was Jesse.
No, Jesse was coming from behind. Remember, he was just being handed off.
Okay.
All 3 players, in fact, all 4 players went to the same player.
Yeah.
How is that possible? What kind of disconnect must you have that, guys, there's one line break. There's one guy who did a line break, and he's left everyone behind. Or he is picking up support on the way, but Jesse Creel could have taken the support runner, let the guys in front of the ball carrier stop the ball carrier, or let the guys in front of the ball carrier distract the ball carrier while Jesse Creel is taking the ball carrier. Like, those are things that a top level player should be. It should become second nature in terms of communication, because you're always going to be playing top rugby and you're stopping tries and line breaks and everything. So that kind of communication should have happened easy. They should have made it clean on that one.
Yeah. No, fair. I think Jesse Creel could have just gone for Harry Wilson, Big H, as they call him in Australia. He could have gone for Harry Wilson, and Willemse and Lebok could have just stood their ground and made sure that Tom Wright doesn't go or gain so much purchase and so much yards. He drew 3 players, as you said, to give the ball to Harry Wilson, who was running by himself and actually shot away from backline players. All 3 backline players, they shot away to score that try under the sticks. But Biza, there's also this talk now on the timelines among Springbok fans where they start pointing fingers, and it seems to be every time the Springboks lose with Money at 10, he seems to be the scapegoat going forward. Looking at Money in that game, he looked like a dream in that first 20 minutes. Any coach's dream for a fly-off. He was prime time Dan Carter in those first 20 minutes. But once the whole team started making errors, once the whole team started getting penalized, once the whole team started losing lineouts, once the whole team started making 17 turnovers and missed tackles, but people are looking at a Manny Lebok. Pisa, talk to me.
Yeah, no, it's a strange one. He seems to always be the first one to take the bullets when the Springboks don't play well, or when the Springboks don't produce a result. There is some blame that should lay on his shoulders. There were a few easy penalties that would have sort of popped over, but who makes that call? Is the captain says, let's go for the corner, because at that time they were dominating. The errors that he made, the exception, the midfield, that's Major, as Vuas said, it's a poor pass. That's intercepted. But I think the two, Jaded and Vuya have said the leadership sort of let him down a bit, because when things weren't working well, someone needed to stand up and say, hey, let's just go back to basics a bit. Maybe not try to play so pretty. I think maybe that was the way to go. And I do enjoy Money. I think he brings dimension to the Springboks that the other two flyers don't really bring. But he seems to always take the bullets when things don't go well. The odd thing is that we shipped 3 points. We brought in 22 points and shipped 33 points in the second half. But nobody's talking about defense. Nobody's talking about the defensive coach. Nobody's actually breaking the game down and going into detail. What were the issues? What's the issue in the bits? Because there were issues. It seemed that the last defender was a lot more reluctant to actually keep going as they normally do. They were sort of like hovering. And I think that was basically shaped in the first half by Nick White. Some of Nick White's kicks that he found the wedge in between the fullback, the sweeping scrum half, and the blindside winger. And I think that worried them a bit because at times they put like an extra guy in the backfield. I think if you see where Money is for the last try was in the backfield, and Damon's also in the backfield. Generally, they don't really defend like that. So there are some question marks that maybe should not be pinned on Money. Leadership should be asked. Why continue to try and play Tony ball when it seemed like because the Springboks had a lot of opportunities. I'm not sure how many 22 entries they had in the game, and then they make mistakes. Some forced, some unforced. That's one, and then the second one is defensive framework. It's to collapse. Of course, some good strategy from Joe Schmidts in terms of the little kicks from Nick White, and also the attackers holding their foot speed on defense to allow the winger on the outside to clear that open space. So the question mark is defensively. The framing, what happened there. You can't just shoot 30 points and then play in the attack. What's going on defense, I think.
Yeah, no, fair. I think also another thing I've noticed is that the Boks are also quite thin on the edge, in the trenches, always having a one-man clean-out, and it's always these small wingers, or even a Grant Williams having to be forced to make a clean-out because the forwards are taking too long to move from side to side. Maybe Tony Ball, it is a good thing, first 20 minutes, and then you consolidate your way around the field and to start dictating where you play the game. Because I put out a thread regarding exit plays, right? Where Australia in the kickoffs, they were kicking towards the right, which is nearer to the TV screen. And the Boks were kind of making easy exits. In that sense, using Kurtley Arendse, using Eben Etzebeth, who was quite high. So they put Tom Wright under pressure because Tom Wright now had to come all the way from fullback to come and chase, because the other winger, remember from kickoff, he's the fastest guy who's chasing towards that ball. And so now they don't have a wing. So they put Tom Wright under pressure with those box kicks from Grant Williams. And then Nick White started noticing that, hey, man, listen, we're not actually gaining purchase from these kickoffs. So let's change tactics. So they decided to kick one in the middle. I think it was after Money had slotted the 3 points to make it 10-0. So they decided to go in the middle, and Peter Steph Tutoy and Sia Kolisi and Malcolm Marx were there. So that was a safe one for them as well. So then after that, I think it was 18 or 15-0. Then they decided to go far right, where Dylan Peach actually contested. He actually won the ball back for Australia. They got an advantage. They moved forward, and then another try was scored by Sia. Then they went to the far right again, and then after that, Dylan Peach tried to contest, but then he couldn't get to the ball. But already he had made an impact to whoever caught that ball, because he fell onto the ground. Malcolm Marx picked up and then got pilfered by McBride. But it's also those kind of elements or those kind of things that take place in a game where you have smart players who can see when things are not working. I mean, you guys are talking about Springboks not having the ability to adjust mid-game, and the Wallabies having that ability to go, hey, this is not working. Let's change and see, and let's test the other side of the of the field if they can be as safe as the right side, because the right side is Lua Diaga and Wilco Low, and the far side is Oxenchair and Ibn Etzebeth, funny enough. So now Ibn Etzebeth is forced to hit the rucks instead of waiting and chasing the ball this time around. Jade, talking about the forward pack in this game, how well do you think Sia went at number 8 for the Springboks? Because now it looks like there could be a fragile element regarding this position, because now they only left with Sia and Kwagga Smith under their belt, because they're not going to use then Kobus Visa at 8, who's also undercooked in that position at this level.
I think Sia went well. I think he went well. I think, look at the try he scored. I think he went well. And also look at the difference that, in the box game when he went off. So I think he had one of his better games, in quite some time at 8. I think he was, he can be proud of his performance on the day. So also, he's speaking about them losing 7 lineouts on their own throw. And now you're looking at Sia and Marco van Staden, who's not really tallest and the best lineout option. And maybe they need to look at that. It's a problem there. Maybe they need one more jumper, because they've got 3, they've only got 3 out and out jumpers at lineout times, and maybe one more, might just help them also. Maybe Rassi's looking at that coming into this week, so maybe shifting Sia back to 8, back to 6, and then maybe giving, Kobus Visa a run at 8 just for that, that lineout option that he does again if he plays 8. So that's the only downfall in playing Sia at 8, is the lineout time. You're going to play from starting at 6. But other than that, Sia I thought they had a good game. One of his better games at 8 school.
Vickers, your thoughts regarding Jesse Creel and Andre Esterhazen? And then after that, do you think Fassi and Willemse did themselves justice in this game at 15, or we might see Villa Leroux coming back for the test in Cape Town?
Yeah, I think. Look, I thought Fassi was okay-ish in that first couple of minutes. Damon Willemse was definitely terrible. But for me, I think Biza said in the beginning that Mani was looking good and controlling everything, and Andre Esterhazen was, pretty immense. I thought he was probably the best Springbok player out there yesterday, with Grant Williams, obviously. For me, look, the combination of Andre and Jesse could work. It's not very different to a Damien Dialende, but I think with in terms of Damien, he has more say and probably more vocal when it comes to giving him the ball, letting him taking it up and giving an input in terms of what to play. I'm not sure how if Andre would be comfortable doing that. So maybe that's why there's a bit of a difference when the two are playing the other two. So yeah, so for me, I think Damien is still probably number 112 for South Africa. Although I did think Andre had a great game yesterday. In terms of just obviously just next week, I think probably next week we could see Vili come back. We could see. I'm not sure if Cheslin is injured or what's going on with him, but we could see Cheslin come in because unfortunately for Edwin, we didn't see much of him yesterday, and I think that when it comes to Cheslin, he has a big influence in games. So I think Rassie will probably look at bringing a guy like that and Damien Dialende, of course, and we could see Andre Pollard. Not sure if they'll make a change at 9, but if they would, it will probably be Kobus Reina starting.
Okay, fair enough. Jade, who do you think starts for Australia then next week as well? Do we maybe see a Lakan coming back into the fray? And maybe Joe Schmidt, could he go 6-2 as well?
So Joe Schmidt initially went 6-2, and then he had Dave Edmund going back on the bench. So I think he'll keep it the same. For me, we might see Stalaka Loftu, like you say, come in. We might also see depending on Bobby V, how way easy in terms of his fitness, and we might see him coming in as well. Oh, Joe Schmidts might say, okay, you know what? I did what I did. These guys, remember, they've had 4 heavy games on the trot. Let's rotate, Let's rotate. Let's give guys a chance, especially up front. Let's give Fraser a break. Let's start Tazano. Let's give Frost a break. Let's give Williams a run. Let's look at making a few changes and just freshening it up. Because he knows that he came, he did his job. He won. If you go back, he got one win in Australia, South Africa. So maybe let's just look at it and say, okay, I had 4 heavy games on the trot. Let me manage his players. Let me look at this realistic and target and let us look up. And get some guys, giving some guys game time. That doesn't be playing for a while. So maybe he might do that. If I was him, I'd look at it, Scoop. I don't know how you feel. Because I think, okay, he really came to Africa. He got a win. These guys are playing against the Lions now. They have a heavy schedule. So let's give them a break. Let's give a few of them a rest, and let's rotate this team. What have they got to lose?
You must fly them home, bro. You must make a statement tomorrow. Fly them home. Tell them these players have been given some time off to go spend with their families. Get job done.
No.
They played 4 and they played 3. They had one week break and they got into the Africa, right? But when the Lions lost test was like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they had an intense, 3-day series against the Lions, and they have the biggest squad depth. What if a guy like Fraser McGrath goes down? What if a guy like they lose someone like a Len Ikita or someone like that?
Can't afford to lose Lenny.
It would be a massive outcry though if literally tomorrow he wakes up, flies top players home, and says that these players have been given off too much game time, and then because now the test in Cape Town is dead rubber, it's dead and buried. So it could be massive in the news.
Mind games, Vickers. Mind games.
What would Rassie Russell do in this situation? After 3 heavy games, 4 heavy games.
No, he's in a corner. He has to win his best. He has to play his best team and win. He's in a corner. There's nothing he can do. There's nothing he can do. He's in a corner. He has to play his best team.
So the Boks are going through full throttle. Pizza, who's your starting lineup for the Springboks next week? 1 to 23.
That's difficult, Scoop. Just on Jade's point, firstly, Joe has to make changes in any case because Slipper is out injured, Peach is out injured. They would have been ruled out. Wilson home yesterday, so he's probably going to have to pass the fitness. The changes that will have to happen in any case. In terms of the Springboks, I really would like to see Archie Slayman get an opportunity or go back to the lock slips my his name slips my mind now.
Norkia.
Yeah. I wasn't actually impressed with
Sauce.
Yeah, and Sauce.
And Luat, eh?
Luat was a little bit especially on defense. He made a lot of some road reads. He was always off pace as well. Ball in hand, he was okay. He's got good dribbling skills. So I would like Nokia back. I think he need an engine, but obviously I'm not sure that the place for Sauce and Nokia in the same 23. One of them has to go, and then RG has to come in. Jade mentioned that an extra jumper is going to be important in the lineup because they've struggled. The question mark, so do you go with Vista now at 8 and leave out Sia or if Sia is fit or Escom? I'm not sure.
Can Rassie not call Ivan Roos a proper 8?
Well, he hasn't fancied him for the easiest games in the world. I'm not sure how you could fancy him for now. This will be the most difficult or the most must-win game in Russell's coaching career. So I don't see him. He would be the perfect man, because we've got an issue with that middle carrier in Tony's ball.
100%.
But I'm pretty sure he's already said in the press conference yesterday that Damien will come in at center. If he's fit to play, and Chesley will come in on the wing. So we already know those guys are playing. So Andre is probably out. Now the question is can, as Vio said, Does he go back to Pollard? That's a question mark. Or does he take money? That's a question mark. I think it all depends on what game plan they want to play. I'm pretty sure
So
it's going to be.
we're probably not going to see Sasha next week, who was supposed to probably start in Cape Town if the Springboks won on Saturday.
I doubt that. And as Vic said, I think he goes with Pollard at 10. He goes with Damian and Jesse in the centers, one with Clark, one with Chesley. And then the question mark is at fullback. Does he go with? I think he will leave out. We'll see. I think he's either go with Damian or really one of the two. 8 forwards, maybe Visa 8, Sia on the flank, if Sia split. A bit of stuff on one flank, probably Nokia and then I don't know if that combination works as locks, I'm not sure. And I think I'm probably keeps it the same. There's a question mark over Bongi as well.
Yeah, hey. Bongi was off the pace as well when he came on.
Yeah, it's I don't know how that's going to work out, whether he needs probably someone else. Because he's lost a lot of lineouts in the past 3 games.
Yeah.
He really is nervous in the past 3 games. He's not accurate with his throwing, so that's another question mark. So it'll be interesting. He has to make changes, but as Rio says and Jake say, he will go back to what he believes is the strongest 23.
Not fair. Vickers, before we jump into the All Blacks, do you think some players have played themselves out of that Springbok starting lineup going forward after this game?
No, I think you will understand that it was one of those off days.
Okay.
I don't think you'll be too harsh on the players, but I think you'll understand that it's one of those off days. But the question is, the problem is that as a player, a new player establishing yourself in the team, once you have an off game, it is very hard for a coach to give you the trust again, especially going forward in a big game to trust you. So if we make an example, a clean example is Fassi, for example. If Fassi had a brilliant season last year for the Boks, end of the year tour.
100%.
And also if you look at, he hasn't been playing badly for the Boks, and this is probably his first performance that we probably all say, yeah, it was a little bit just under the belt. So for me, I think when you look at that, and then you have a guy like Damien Willemse and Willie waiting on that same jersey, I think he will probably go. Unfortunately, at this point, he'll probably go back to his old players, and then maybe look at giving a Fassi again another chance, maybe Argentina in London or Argentina in Durban.
Interesting. Well, that brings us to an end of this discussion regarding the Wallabies and the All Blacks, Wallabies and the Springboks. Now, Jade, your favorite team in the world, the All Blacks against Argentina, 11 p.m. kickoff. My goodness, Umdulala late because of this. We slept very late last night watching the All Blacks. But Jade, your key takeaways in this game, maybe I'll also chime in, and then Vuyo and Biza will also maybe share a few pointers regarding that. Talk to me, Jade.
Oop, I can ask you this. Were you impressed? I wasn't impressed with their performance last night. I think, looking at the forwards did their job. Forward was outstanding. They played about a 10-man rugby at time, but their backline was absolutely non-existent at time, Slip of how many key tackles? I mean, you're looking at a guy like Audie Savia slipping off key tackles, Jody Barrett slipping off key tackles. So you're looking at this game and you're looking at the performance. Yes, they won and they got a bonus win. So, but Razor would have more questions, than answers. Yes, Argentina's not a bad team to play against, but they had no creativity in their backline. If it was not, I'm being brutally honest with you, if it was not for the brilliance of Will Jordan setting up 3 tries and then more yesterday, I don't think the All Blacks would have won. I don't think the All Blacks would have won. I'm being honest with you. I don't think they would have won. So, you're looking at guys like, Du Plessis Griffey, easy test match quality. Does he really offer you what Audie Savia offers you at 7? Does Audie offer you at 8 what Sakit is offering you at 8? To provide a good game again. Holland had a good game again. Looking at Scott Barrett, is Perry Tuipulotu, playing better rugby than him at the moment. Because as soon as Tuipulotu came on, that tide, that Argentina had and the pressure they put on, he was experienced enough, and the All Blacks scored 2 tries from him, get from Wolves. I mean, look at the thumping tackle he made on his try line. So yeah, you looking at stuff like that, you rise and you're thinking, okay, we won by 41 points. We got a bonus point in Argentina, but we have so much room to improve. Our wings are still, not up to standard.
Yeah.
Paliprak too easy the 13. I mean, okay, Bowden and Cortes Ratama, we know that Roy God will be the starting name, but Cortes really put that now. What if Van Christie do when he came on? There's so much questions, and they're so flat at times. Had the ball in the 22 of Argentina, but they could not put them away. The backline couldn't put them away. When last you see a good backline move from the All Blacks? When last you see, angle running between the centers, busting through, coming through, breaking through, some creativity. Everything has been so, individual brilliance these days when it comes to that backline. I really think, if you're looking at this team yesterday and, the All Blacks might take something away from, the Boks losing in South Africa yesterday, because everybody thought that it would be a 2-horse race for the Rugby Championship. And obviously, there's so much eyes on that fixture at Eden Park. But I still don't think I've seen enough from the All Blacks yesterday to make me think that, hey, if the Boks is on form on that day, they have enough to stop the Springbok team on form. I don't know. I haven't seen it from them yesterday. So next week, I want to see improvement. Yes, they're good at scrum time. In Linus has been functioning better. However, we need to see a little bit more creativity. We need to see Rico get the ball more displaying. We need to see Maurice come into the backline more. We need to see, Will Jordan get the ball more. We need to see them actually catch a high ball. Because, at times when you put the ball up there, they were absolutely nowhere there, So their high ball is still a problem. So that's things that Razor has to look at now. The forward pack, brilliant. But I looked at it the other day and I asked you and I said, this All Black backline, I wouldn't even put them in the top 4 in the world. I think at the moment, to be brutally honest with you, I think Scotland, South Africa, and France have better backlines in the All Blacks at the moment.
Australia at this point.
Australia as well.
Yeah, no, Jade, I hear you. I thought they did well in that first half, the All Blacks. It's Argentina playing at home. Those first 10 to 15 minutes are definitely going to be an emotional side. Argentina is going to be very difficult to break through them in that first 15 to 20 minutes. But the All Blacks had the ability to score first. But only a few times did we get to see the ball go out wide into the trenches where the wingers could really gain some purchase and then bring the ball back infield where we see some pods from the forwards. We didn't see a lot of that from the All Blacks. For me, that's the concerning part where they struggled to get the ball out wide because they couldn't get past that rush defense from Argentina. Argentina put that backline under a lot of pump. And I think also their kicking game was pretty good in that opening quarter where they pressured the All Blacks. Similar style to what France did in that first test. So they tested the fullback. They tested Bowden Barrett because he tends to be at fullback position in when we're defending a lot. So they put him under pressure a few times. There were a few clunky elements from Cortes Ratama as well. So there wasn't really like a smooth, well-oiled attack shape from the breakdown off the deck. So I struggled with that as well when I was watching Cortes. Yes, in glimpses he was good here and there, but then obviously Will Jordan, if it wasn't for Will Jordan, as you said, to create those opportunities for the backline, maybe we could have been in trouble a bit as well. But yeah, and then that first 20 minutes after the first, in the beginning of the first half, I think Argentina just put the All Blacks under the pump a lot. And obviously there's this element that I hate where they start getting yellow cards in those last 40 minutes in the second half. Billy Proctor, then but they defended quite well, which was quite interesting with 14 men. And then you have Anton Leonard-Brown, 80 odd test matches for the All Blacks, but similar to what he's been doing over the past 2 years, he always comes off the bench and gets a yellow card. If you look at 4 or 5 of his appearances, he's done something like this. at this level. Also, if you go back to Super Rugby, if you include that as well, yellow card. I mean, he comes in, he makes it a daft tackle first of all, and then what was the other one? Was it a hit without the ball? And I'm like, where are you looking, bro? What are you looking at? I mean, it makes no sense. He goes and hit a man without the ball, and then he doesn't roll away or something like that, and then he cops a yellow card. Literally 2 minutes to go in the game. I mean, these are the same things that cost the All Blacks the game at Ellis Park, where the Springboks were coming back. They copped 2 yellow cards or something similar as well, and it was Lomax, it was Finau, if I'm not mistaken. But at this time of the game, you cannot allow your team to be under that much pressure and under the pump. And then it gets worse with 14 men or 13 men. You're putting your team under a lot of pressure in that situation. So there's lots to work on. Yes, it's the first game back. I think it's been 3 weeks for the All Blacks not playing any matches. But yeah, they've had enough rest. It's their first game back. They will be happy with the win. Just take the W. Let's move on. See what you need to work on from Monday all the way to next week, Friday. And then, yeah, let's build it up from there. I mean, next week, you want to see a much better clinical performance, good defense, because with defense hasn't been great since Tony Brown left. I'm not Tony Brown, Leon McDonald, because I think the other guy, Hansen, was looking after defense. It was pretty stable. But now I think Tamati Williams, or not Tamati Williams. What's his name again, Jade? What's his guy now? Forgot his name. He's the one looking after defense, and it's been clunky as well, our defense in the past.
Scott Hansen's defense coach, man.
Hmm?
Scott Hansen is a defense coach.
Is he still the defense coach? I thought he was helping out with attack.
No, it's got Mighty Elephant.
Ellison, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. No, fair enough. But yeah, they still need to fix their defense for me at this point. It's not great, but yeah, also that backline, yeah, man, we need to see a bit more creativity. With the type of players and the caliber of players they have, they need to be more creative and also involve a bit of wingers, man, coming around, joining the back, adding extra numbers. That back pass as well. Let's try and improvise a bit more. But I mean, it's easy to read. I see there was was it Montoya who just read Rico Ioane's line so brilliantly. Like, he didn't even worry about the players in front of him. He just ran straight in that back pass, straight for Rico Ioane. It was ball and all in that segment. So don't make it so easy for your opponents to read your attack. So yeah, that's what I thought. Vickers, did you get to watch the All Blacks?
Yeah, of course, bro. Of course.
Since you're a backline player, what are your thoughts actually about this backline conversation?
No, when I look at this backline, you know when you have that sign that says "Beware of the dogs," Basop Dion. The backline of the All Blacks is actually have that sign on the outside of the house, but then you have a poodle inside the house. So it's not much. Unfortunately, I don't think. Look, there's no threat. I think once you lose Cam Roigard, I mean, the All Blacks are struggling at the 9th position. They've been struggling. I think it's time to obviously start. I feel like they missed the boat end of last season to blood in new youngsters, because now you find yourself that Christie is your basically backup scrum half, your number 3 scrum half. That means that Cortez is starting. So imagine now, if you lose Cortez, that means Christie is starting. Who's coming in on the bench? It's gonna be unknown. 10, I thought Bowden didn't play badly. I actually thought he controlled the game nicely. And then, I mean, the outside backs, you only have Jordy, who is obviously a good player. And then you got Will Jordan, and then Proctor, no. Sevi Reese, I don't know why. Maybe Sevi Reese has got types of Razor doing something that is not supposed to be seen in public. So I don't rate him. I don't rate at all. And then you got Rico. We had this discussion last week. Well, it was funny enough about Rico Ioane at 11. I don't know how serious you guys are about Rico at 11, but it's another one of those. I think for me, there's no threat in that defense line, in that attack, in the back line. There's no threat. And I feel like that's what the New Zealand teams of the past had that. They had that. There was always someone who's going to be a threat. And it wasn't just one player, it was 2, 3 players. And at the moment, you only have Will Jordan. And I feel like that in that area, in that sense, selection has to be looked at. I thought Kirifi had a good game. I'm surprised Jay thinks otherwise. I thought Kirifi, for his first start, I thought he didn't go too badly. But other than that, I think, look, like you guys have said, the game was not. It was really scrappy. Like there was no flow. I didn't see any flow into the game. I felt there was no flow, and I feel like if taking the W is the main thing in this game, just take the W and leave, and go restart next week back at home, and that's it.
Yeah, I think so too. Take that W and go fix things for the second test and leave it at that. Pizza, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with all of you guys. I wasn't really impressed. Of course, I was impressed with the fact that they were able to win on a scoreline that easily, having not really played too well. When you talk about the Blacks, I think there's a big question mark on Rieko. You know, he's just ghosting in games on the wing. I'm not sure he's maybe the right guy to leave it. There's a question mark over him. Good player, world-class player, but question mark on his performances currently, or his form, or whatever you want to call it. And then the center combination, there's a question mark. You know, is Billy the right guy to go with Jody? Is there nobody else with a different skill set? Maybe that's a question mark. I know Will just said he was happy with Duplessis. I wasn't impressed. I think in his time I wasn't really impressed with him. But I think the difference in the game between the two teams, as the other guys have said, there was no flow. You know, there wasn't clear dominance or flow. There were moments, you know, where Will Jordan would come in and do Will Jordan things. But I think the difference between the two teams was set pieces. The Allblacks set piece, the lineouts, you know, the more than lineouts, the scrum dominance. I think that was a big difference in the game. Especially in the second half, you know, when Perry came on and absolutely talk about the Argentinian lineouts, the Pumas, you know, they couldn't get any ball. They actually had some 22 entries, but when they were in there in the lineout, Petty or Tupa would steal the lineout, you know. So I think the set pieces were positive for the All Blacks. But there's question marks on the backs, you know. Of course, when you lose Cam Roigard, it's a big loss. Qantas did play well, you know. He had as you said, Scoop, he had a slow start, you know. He had a dicey start. Eventually, he came through. BB did his BB thing. Things very special, but I think the set pieces were outstanding from the All Blacks.
Yeah, no, fair. I think they really knew how to consolidate when the chips were down, actually, because I think Argentina had the tails up in that game. They had to defend with 14 men. They stood tall, but obviously you can only defend for so long. And also the fan base or playing in front of a home crowd, you can really get your tails up, and you really want to do it for the fans as well that are in that stadium. But I think the All Blacks really matured in those last 20 as well. I mean, something we haven't seen from the All Blacks in this past 5 years, to be honest, where they really know how to regroup and know how to go back to basics, because then Tokiao came in, he was hitting his darts as well, and they could maul quite easily, and they had a very prominent drive. And you could see Will Jordan coming to join in, as well as when Christie was calling the backs to come and add more numbers to push forward. I mean, things like that, for me, I think maybe that's a positive, because, I mean, last year, if you look at last year, the All Blacks were under the pump in those last 20 minutes, and it was a big thing around global media where the All Blacks were not scoring points in the second half. It's good to see them starting to score points, and not just 5 or 3, but managing to score more than just 5 or 3 points, which is a good thing. I think for me, that's one positive. But next week, we want to see a more clinical performance from that. Vuyo, last thoughts, and then Jade, and then Biza. I think we've come to the end of this particular segment of the Rugby Scoop podcast. Talk to me, Vickers. Last thoughts?
Nothing really, but I thought just to make a comment on the defense from the New Zealand side. I actually like their defense that they're using now because they're pushing up to the ball, to the basically the ball carriers, receiving ball carriers, and then if there's a pass behind them, they're pushing up again. I actually like that kind of defense because then you're in control of anything that happens behind instead of shooting all the way in, and then if there's no line break, if there's no back pass, then you have to work back hard. And then if you look at the try that Wilson scored off that shoulder, the box players were already outside it, and I feel like that's for me that the defense New Zealand is using quite well. But just my last thoughts for me is that next week is going to be interesting, especially if Cape Town decides to sprinkle a little few rain. It's going to be very interesting. So and also I feel like maybe next week Tony will be given some time off to fly to New Zealand, and Russ is going to take over and make it a 10-man rugby. We'll see.
If the Boks lose next week, I think this will be Tony's last season, and the Boks will restore factory settings, go back to what they know. Pizza, your final thoughts?
I think on both teams, on the All Blacks, the coaching staff was going to have to make decisions on Rieko on the wing, if he's the right guy. And then on the Boks, they have to make a call on what game plan they're going to play. Is it Tony ball or we go back to default settings or a mixture? So it'll be interesting. The thing that I do know is that the Boks have to win convincingly on Sunday. No doubts. So we'll see. Yeah.
Fair enough, gentlemen. That brings us to the end of this week's Rugby Scoop podcast. Hopefully, the Springboks don't name their team on Monday, tomorrow, because now Joe Schmidt is on to Rassie Erasmus. Lots to look forward to this week. It's week 2 of the Rugby Championship. Cheers, guys. Have a wonderful Sunday. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Cheers, fellas. Thank you.
Cheers, Scoop. Thank you, man. Thank you, boys. Cheers.